I had gone to the rooftop to take down the laundry on my mother's instructions when my eyes fell on the window across the street. There stood Rubina Auntie, peeking out into the lane. As soon as she saw me, a smile spread across her face, and she began signaling something with her hand. I couldn't understand at first, but then she gestured toward her door, clearly inviting me to come over. I looked down into the street. There was no one else around. It was obvious that Rubina Auntie was calling me specifically. I quickly took down all the clothes from the line, brought them into my mother's room, and then stepped out of the house. When I reached Rubina Auntie's door, she was already there waiting for me. Seeing me, she said, "I'm so glad you came, Shahrukh. I was really worried about who I could call for help." As she spoke, she reached into her camise and pulled out a wallet. She took out some notes and handed them to me. I instantly felt embarrassed and lowered my gaze. Noticing this, she smiled and said, "Oh, come on. There's no need to be shy. You're like a child to me. I just need you to bring me some detergent sachets. I have to do laundry." There was a strange kind of smile on her face as she said this. I nodded and replied, "Okay, Auntie, I'll be right back." I hurried to the corner shop only to find it closed. I had no choice but to go further down the lane. All the while, I was anxious. What if my mother found out that I went out on an errand for Rubina Auntie? Rubina Auntie hadn't been in our neighborhood for very long, and my mother never liked her. She often complained that Rubina Auntie had strange habits, sometimes standing on the rooftop, sometimes hanging around the window, or loitering by the door. My mother disliked all of this and used to say that women like her ruined the environment of decent neighborhoods. "This is a place for respectable women," she would say, "and women who hang around doorways are never good." She had especially warned me to stay away from Rubina Auntie's door, saying that even decent men could get a bad name because of such women. I had reassured her, "What do I have to do with Rubina Auntie?" And she seemed satisfied because I wasn't the kind of boy to roam around unnecessarily. But today, when Rubina Auntie called me, I couldn't refuse her or the task she asked of me. I finally reached a small grocery store in the next street, bought 5 sachets of detergent worth 10 rupees each, and returned to her door, but now she wasn't standing outside. I knocked on the door, and it slowly creaked open. There was a small gallery inside, leading to a large room where Rubina Auntie sat. She gestured for me to come in. I suddenly felt nervous. Never before had I entered any neighbor's home, especially not without my mother's permission. I quickly said, "No, no, Auntie, here, please take these." But she replied, "My legs have gone numb. I can't stand up." She was holding her leg and trying to move it with difficulty, suggesting her foot had fallen asleep. Reluctantly, I stepped inside and handed her the detergent sachets. She took them, reached into her camise again right in front of me, and tucked the remaining money back into it. Then she pointed to a chair, asking me to sit. I quickly said, "No, Auntie, I have to go now. Ami needs me for something," and rushed out of the house, breathing heavily as I stepped back onto the street. Just then, my friend Ramiz came over. He looked at me in surprise and asked, "Hey, what were you doing at that woman's house?" I frowned at him and replied, "She needed something from the store, that's all. Poor woman lives alone. She must have so many problems, and no one wants to help just because she stands by her door sometimes." Hearing that, Ramiz's eyes widened. "Oh, wow. Look at you being all sympathetic now. So, what did you get her?" He nudged me playfully with his elbow. Annoyed, I shoved him and said, Let's go to the corner shop and get some chips." I grabbed his hand and walked to the shop with him, but the whole way, he kept teasing me. After spending quite a while hanging out with friends, I finally returned home late at night, only to find Ami sitting, clearly angry, waiting for me. The moment she saw me, she shouted, "Tell me, what were you doing at that woman's house across the street?" News had already reached my mother's ears, and I was immediately rattled. "It's nothing, Amma," I replied nervously. "Rubina Auntie just asked for something from the store." My mother looked at me angrily and said, "Don't you dare bring her anything ever again. You've only gone there once, and the whole neighborhood knows about it already. Shamsha from next door came over just now. She told me you went to Rubina's house. The entire street is talking. Everyone's going to assume the worst, and I can't go to each person defending your character." "That woman is strange," she continued, her voice rising. "She never wears a dupatta, and she doesn't even care how she dresses. Shameless, disgraceful woman. My mother had insulted Rubina Auntie in every way she could, and I simply stood there with my head bowed in silence. I just said, "Okay, Amma, I won't do any errands for her again," hoping to calm her down. Then I went into my room, but I couldn't stop thinking. What exactly had that poor woman done that made the entire neighborhood turn against her? She had just asked me to bring her some detergent, nothing else. What she wore or how she lived, how was that anyone else's business? But then again, this was a decent neighborhood. Everyone here liked to think of themselves as righteous and respectable, and my mother was right. This area was full of people who valued appearances, rules, and reputation. So I decided I wouldn't even glance toward Rubina Auntie's door from now on. My mother's scolding was enough to scare me straight, and if my father had found out, it would have been even worse. He would have smacked me without a second thought. But the very next day, the promise I'd made to myself was shattered. I was returning home from college when I saw Rubina Auntie standing by her door again, and it felt as though she was waiting just for me. As soon as she saw me, she said, "Son, Shahrukh, could you please do one more thing for me? I'd be so grateful. If there were a man in my house, I wouldn't have to trouble you like this." She spoke with such humility and desperation that I couldn't walk away. Despite everything, I found myself standing there. "Yes, Auntie, what do you need?" She quickly reached into her kameez and pulled out a 100 rupee note, handing it to me. "Just bring me some detergent sachets," she said. I was surprised. Hadn't I just brought her a bunch of sachets the day before? Why did she need more already? She was a woman living alone. How much detergent could she possibly need? Still, I took the money and went off to buy them. When I returned and handed them to her at the door, she was overwhelmingly thankful. "You're such a kind boy," she said. "No one else in this neighborhood ever helps me. People see me and shut their doors as if I'm some kind of ghost or something from another planet." Her words made me smile. "Oh no, Auntie," I replied politely, "It's nothing like that. Everyone's just busy, that's all. If you ever need anything, you can ask me." I offered my help so respectfully, without even thinking what would happen if my mother found out. I had completely forgotten yesterday's scolding and returned home cheerfully. That evening, Amma made my favorite aloo parathas. I ate them to my heart's content and then went upstairs. I usually spent some time on the rooftop in the evenings. From there, I noticed Rubina Auntie was on her rooftop too, spreading out laundry. Her rooftop had a small room with a window from which she sometimes looked down into the street. The rest of the rooftop was open, and she was busy hanging clothes. My eyes wandered toward her involuntarily. She looked around 45 years old, plump, broad-shouldered, and quite tall. But at that moment, something else caught my attention. It was her hair, long, flowing all the way to her knees. I had never seen anyone with such long hair before. I was mesmerized, staring at it without realizing. Then my eyes shifted to her clothes. Maybe because she had been doing laundry, her clothes were completely soaked and nearly see-through. I immediately tried to look away and distract myself, but by then, Rubina Auntie had already noticed me. As soon as she saw me, she waved as if we were long-lost friends. I had no choice but to return her smile out of politeness. After hanging the clothes, she went back downstairs, and I stood there, staring at the line. There were so many clothes, sheets, garments, shawls. A single woman and this much laundry? But she had washed clothes just the day before, too. Where did all these come from again? I was lost in these thoughts when Amma came up to the rooftop. She looked at me sternly and said, "How many times have I told you not to come up here in the evening? The walls between houses aren't that high, and you can see right into other people's courtyards. There are young girls living around us. Be mindful, Beta." Her words made me angry. "Amma, I'm in my own house, not peeking into someone else's. And I don't have a habit of spying. You always make a fuss over everything. Tell me, what should I do alone downstairs? You're always busy talking to Kala on the phone for hours. I finished my studies. If I go outside, you complain about where I go and who my friends are. And now you won't even let me sit on the rooftop because it looks into other homes? Should I just sit in my room and suffocate to death?" I was so frustrated that I ended up raising my voice. Amma immediately took off her slipper and smacked me on the back. Have you no shame speaking so rudely to your mother? Sit here and don't move. If one of the neighbors complains to your father tomorrow, you can explain yourself. Fuming, she stormed off downstairs. And I sat there holding my head. Truthfully, my parents kept a very tight leash on me because I was their only and very pampered son. With the love came endless restrictions. And Amma was especially paranoid about the girls next door, who were, in fact, older than me. I always respectfully called them Baji, but still Amma had her suspicions. I stayed seated in silence. A little later, I saw Rubina Auntie again. She was coming up with another bucket of laundry. I stared in surprise. This many clothes again? It looked like she was washing for the entire neighborhood. She would glance at me and smile, then go back to hanging clothes on the line. Her hair loose, no dupatta, she looked like some celestial beauty. And without realizing, I kept watching her. A strange thought crossed my mind. If she looked this graceful at her age, how stunning must she have been in her youth? I began imagining her younger self in my mind. But then, the call for Maghrib prayer echoed through the air, snapping me out of it. I rushed downstairs. Amma never let me stay on the roof during Maghrib. Even Rubina Auntie disappeared from her rooftop the moment the Adhan began. The next day, as I was returning from college, I saw her again standing at her door. It felt like she had been waiting just for me. "Listen to me for a second," she called out. I went toward her. "Could you bring me some more detergent sachets?" She didn't wait for my answer, just reached into her shirt and pulled out a note, holding it out halfway through the door, keeping herself half hidden. I quietly took the money and walked toward the shop, wondering again, why did she need detergent every day? Where did all those clothes come from? When I returned and handed her the sachets, I asked, "Auntie, why don't you just buy a bigger pack? It costs less and you won't have to go through this daily hassle." She laughed and said, "I need a few other things too, but I don't have anyone to take me to the market. My legs hurt a lot and I don't want to go alone. Sometimes they go completely numb. I see you on your motorcycle in the evenings. If possible, could you take me to the market one day? I'll get everything in one go. I don't feel good asking you for small errands every day." Her request sent a jolt through me. I couldn't say yes. I couldn't say no either. Obviously, such a thing couldn't be hidden. If anyone saw me taking her to the market, and if Amma found out, I'd be doomed. I quietly entered the house only to find Amma sobbing loudly. She was beating her chest, crying in distress. I immediately panicked and rushed to my mother. She was sobbing and said, "Your Kala had a heart attack. I don't know what condition my sister is in. I've called your father from the office and we're both leaving for Lahore right away. Just help arrange the bus tickets." Hearing this, I too was overcome with worry. I loved my younger Kala dearly. I said, "Amma, I'll come with you." But she shook her head firmly. "No, Beta. The situation isn't good. I can't leave the house locked. You stay here and look after the house. If anything serious happens, I'll call you myself." She had made up her mind not to take me along. By the time Abba arrived, she had already packed. "I'll be gone for a whole month, even if your Khala recovers. She'll still need care. When you were born, she did everything for me, brought me food, water, and cared for me at every step. Now it's my turn to be there for her." Amma gave me countless instructions about the house, and then, wrapping me in her prayers, left with Abba for Lahore. When I returned to the house, I was frustrated to realize Amma hadn't even cooked anything. She had left me some money, but it was midday, and there wasn't much decent food available at that hour, and the better places were too far to walk. Caught in this dilemma, I changed out of my uniform and stepped outside. And there she was again, Rubina Auntie, standing at her door as if waiting for me. "Where did your Amma and Abba go with all that luggage?" she asked. Without thinking, I told her everything. She expressed sorrow and concern, then she said, "You must be worried about food, right? Wait here, I'll bring you something to eat." I tried to decline, but she quickly disappeared inside and came back with a plate of food. "Here, eat peacefully. Take some for dinner too if you like. Or you can come and eat with me." I thanked her sincerely and took the plates. As I turned to go, she called after me, "You'll take me to the market this evening, right?" She asked so humbly that I couldn't say no, And besides, I no longer had to fear Amma. She wouldn't be back for a whole month. By then, even the neighbors would forget. I said, okay, but we'll go after Maghrib. That way no one will be around to gossip. I told her the truth. I didn't want anyone to misinterpret anything. Rubina auntie quickly nodded in agreement. When I reached home, I ate the pulao she had cooked. I couldn't help but compliment her. It was delicious. I thought to myself, she's such a kind woman. She genuinely cares for others. Why do people have such a problem with her? Evening came, and after Maghrib, when darkness had properly set in, I took out my motorcycle. Rubina auntie, now wrapped in a shawl, quickly stepped out and sat behind me. As I revved the bike and picked up speed, she suddenly screamed, "What are you doing? I'll fall! Slow down!" Startled, she grabbed me tightly from behind. But I enjoyed riding fast. It thrilled me. I laughed and said, "You're just like Amma, always yelling. I thought you'd be brave. The real fun of biking is in speed." I gave the bike another jerk, and Rubina auntie bounced and grabbed onto me even tighter. "You give such wild jerks? You must be an expert," she laughed nervously. I chuckled. Yes, this is my daily routine. "Well then," she said with a mischievous smile, "I'm going to enjoy riding with you." And with that, she wrapped both arms around me tightly and added, "I'm closing my eyes. You just keep driving the way you do." I continued riding with speed, braking suddenly, accelerating again, just how I liked it. She clung to me the whole time, holding her breath, while I laughed quietly. Eventually, we reached the market. Rubina auntie bought plenty of household necessities. Then she led me to a shop that made me feel instantly embarrassed. I said, "Auntie, I'll wait outside." But she grabbed my hand and said, "Why leave? I want to pick something you'd like." Then she asked the saleswoman to show some items. The woman spread several garments across the counter. Just seeing them made me uncomfortable. But I reluctantly pointed to one or two, and Rubina auntie purchased them. The ride home was quiet. Neither of us spoke. I was overwhelmed with awkwardness because the shops she took me to weren't the kind of places any boy my age would expect to be dragged into. Rubina auntie had bought some clothes to wear, and some undergarments too. After dropping her off at her house, I was about to return home, but she handed me another plate of food. I brought it back, ate quietly, and then lay down, my mind still lingering on Rubina auntie. Then Amma called. She began asking about the house more than about me. I reassured her, "Don't worry, Amma, I'm home and I've locked all the doors properly." She seemed satisfied. Around 2 a.m., Rubina auntie's call came. I was in a light sleep, but I woke up immediately. She had already given me her number, so I recognized it. I answered groggily. "Hello," she said. "Come to my house right now. I need to see you." Her words jolted me. "Is everything okay?" I asked, alarmed. "No," she said. "Usun, just come." Something about her tone made it impossible to refuse. I locked all the doors and headed straight to her place. Her door was already open. As I stepped inside, a message popped up on my phone from her. "Lock the door and come to my room." I figured maybe her legs had gone numb again. I locked the front door and entered her room, only to be stunned. Rubina auntie was wearing the very clothes she had bought that evening, the ones I had helped her pick. She looked at me and smiled. "So, how do I look?" I was speechless, just staring at her. Eventually, I whispered, "You look beautiful, Auntie." She gently pulled me to sit beside her on the bed and held my hand. I was feeling so anxious. It felt like I would die alone tonight. "That's why I called you," she said softly. Then she took my hands and pressed them against her eyes. I felt deeply uncomfortable and confused. What was I doing in a woman's bedroom at this hour? That wasn't how I was raised. I wasn't someone with loose morals. I told her gently, "Auntie, if you're feeling better now, I should head back." But Rubina auntie suddenly started crying. "Don't leave me. Please, I'm so lonely. There's no one I can talk to. Sometimes I feel like ending my life. People think I'm immoral. No one wants to speak to me. I've tried reaching out to neighbors, but they avoid me." She took a deep breath and added, "Just because I'm a single woman, they think I'm indecent. They think I'll trap their men. They look at me like I'm poison." I was stunned. I had never heard her speak like this. Then she said something that silenced me completely. Do you know how many times I've tried to kill myself? I've had enough of this life. My parents died long ago. My husband divorced me because I couldn't have children. He gave me this house as part of the settlement, so at least I had a roof over my head. But I was forced to live alone. She paused, looking down. I had no money for food. That's why I started washing clothes for rich people. There's a wealthy neighborhood not far from here. I go there, collect their laundry, bring it home, wash all day, then return it early the next morning. Whatever little money I make is how I survive. Then she smiled faintly. Today, after a very long time, I went shopping with someone. I bought a few things I liked because now there's someone who looks at me, someone who compliments me. Yesterday, when you messaged to say the food was delicious, do you know how long I stayed happy because of that? I felt alive. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't want a husband. I don't want anything wrong. I just want a friend, someone to talk to, someone to hear my heart out. And with that, she broke down completely, sobbing beside me. I gently held Rubina Auntie's hand and said, You look so beautiful in this black dress. The churidar pajama and frock suit you perfectly. But these tears, they don't look good on you. Smiling softly, I wiped her tears because I could feel the weight she carried in her heart. Hearing my words, she suddenly smiled and said, If any of the women in the neighborhood had befriended me, I wouldn't have needed you like this. I was forced to make friends with you, Shahrukh, because people around here think so wrongly of me. She sighed and continued, Yes, I admit, I don't always look very proper. But what can I do? I work all day long. My feet are always in pain. Sometimes they go completely numb. I'm constantly in water, and I've grown very weak too because I can't always afford good food. Now, tell me honestly, she asked, looking into my eyes. How can I stay all dressed up and presentable under these conditions? When I work, I can't wear dupattas and all that. My body's heavy, and even basic tasks are hard for me. I know my appearance may seem inappropriate, but while I'm working, I forget everything else. All I think about is finishing my tasks on time. After saying that, she avoided my gaze. I said warmly, Mom, Auntie, don't worry. From today, I'm your friend. You can ask me for anything, but please don't ever try to hurt yourself again. Hearing this, a faint smile returned to her face. Always stay happy, Shahrukh, she said softly. I pray you live a joyful, fulfilled life. May you find a beautiful life partner. Her sincere prayers made me happy. Then, in a gentle voice, I said, I should head home now. It's quite late, and if someone sees me, it might create trouble. She wiped her tears again and nodded. Okay, go. I just wanted to show you the clothes I bought. I complimented her once more, then quietly left her house and returned home. As I lay in bed, my thoughts kept circling around everything that had just happened. I wondered, why do we create such barriers between ourselves? Barriers that lead to misunderstanding and division. If my mother had just extended some warmth to Rubina Auntie, just like neighbors do, visited her once in a while, maybe sent over some food, perhaps Rubina Auntie wouldn't have felt so lonely and unwanted. She wouldn't have stood at her door like that every day, looking out at a world that refused to look back at her. I decided then and there, when Amma returns, I will speak to her. I'll tell her that Rubina Auntie isn't some outsider. And if there's anything about her that bothers us, we can explain it with kindness. After all, if a woman stands at her doorway or looks out her window, that doesn't make her immoral. Maybe she's just lonely. Maybe she's battling the kind of depression that silently eats away at a person's spirit. So today I request all of you, please check in on your neighbors. Don't make anyone feel so invisible, so isolated, that they begin to sink into despair the way Rubina Auntie did. I didn't just strengthen my friendship with her that night. I made a firm decision to speak up to my mother too, because sometimes a little understanding can save someone's entire world.